Onegaishimasu. Good. Go. Right. We'll just do one, just a little bit of going into that separation with the feet. So just every jump or so, step out a little bit, go left and right, and draw them back in. So what I want to try and feel in this case that the shoulders also track to the hips. So again, I would give myself a kind of clear focal point forward, and then just feel as the hips adjust, the shoulders will also start to turn. The main thing you could put the shoulders kind of this way, keep them, and then let the legs go. But just if you feel you're basically letting the hips in, you could also not give yourself a point of focus, and then let the head kind of drift with the spine. And then you might start to rotate in the movement anyway. But just play with kind of separating the legs out front and back. Stop. And then also go a little bit like in and out, or narrow and wide. You think about the shoulders, the tracking, and then kind of mix in the two. And go a little bit more diagonal. And just let the shoulders sit onto the hips a little bit. Again, you could have a point of focus forward, or let the point of focus kind of drift a little bit. But the key thing, just think about again, it's like shoulders aligning with hips. Great. If you imagine the kind of plane of the body, or like one easy way to think about it would be like a box shape, shoulder and hips, and the box just turning, traveling. And then also play just a very gentle kind of movement. It doesn't have to be far, but it could be a little bit to the side with the front and back. And just again, feel the shoulders, whatever the movement of the hips, just feel the shoulders kind of track to it. And yeah, if I kind of naturally releasing the shoulders, that should basically just follow with the motion anyway. And it would only be if I'm kind of locking the body out. But the shoulders would start to kind of drift. So a little bit down. And then just convert that kind of bounce more to a kind of pulsey kind of way. And just start to play with more of a kind of roll through the feet there. So again, going a little bit more to the side direction. But think of the lateral motion as kind of useful for lots of things. So any kind of swaying movement. And again, if you put that into a kind of diagonal pattern and the shoulders are following, then the arms will kind of follow anyway. And using the lateral line mostly in the sense of just like shifting the central line to the one side of the body. And then just again play, just be careful with the knees. I'll play like with a little bit of a rotation through it. But do it so that there's not so much demand on the hip to rotate, then it goes a little bit into another kind of issue, in that sense of like rotation through the joint system. And just see if you can if you imagine like a box, and what I would just also play with the weight in the feet. And if you imagine like you're a cardboard box, you would like tip it on it. You could tip it to one corner, and then apply a little bit of movement to it, and it would kind of move. So kind of soft, a little bit wet, damp cardboard box. It's going to kind of flop a little bit. And just kind of shifting weight, shifting movement with the body. Yeah, mostly working the up and down movement. The front and back will be like in this kind of stepping geometry of the feet, and the side to side will be like the shifting of the weight to the side. And then again, it's just the amount that I can kind of shift weight to one side. add a little bit of a challenge to it in that I'm going to maybe start to raise the legs a little bit. And again, try and feel that the shoulders actually, again, kind of adapt to that pattern. And look at, again, balance is an issue. Again, you can go too far with the movement. And then the body starts to rock, and then just notice what happens to the body. Just be careful with the knees, obviously. So try and avoid something that's going to go into rotation work. And again, the movement needs to change, and in that sense, it needs to go into more rotational work. So just play a little bit, be like a step up. You just let the arms, shoulders kind of follow. And if you think about that box shape, you're just kind of tilting it. And you want to kind of keep that position even. So obviously you could twist, distort the structure. Particularly if I'm kind of taking it anywhere, that's what's happening anyway. But I need to feel that that box shape is reasonably solid. First. And then think about the tipping point in this case. If I go into this position, kind of in the hip area, and then the body being kind of tipped over, and then the more flexible this part of the body is, maybe the more that kind of unlock it. Also, how strong the inner thigh hip flexor is, the more maybe you can go a little bit further with it. And then just notice, and if I kind of go to these kind of positions, just notice that the kind of a natural switch on of the leg, even if the body's not tense. There's a kind of natural lighting up of that movement. Again, depending on how I ground with the foot, we'll shift that kind of line in the body. Just play with a little bit there. And the main thing to notice now is whether the weight of the body is happy being in one foot and happy in that structure of the leg. And it can be very unhappy. And then it's going to start to go into these kind of patterns, and it's going to start to roll more into the outside foot than anything, probably. But just play with lateral movements. But just do play. It's like dipping the toe in a sense. Just play with like the shift of the weight, and then just very subtly placing the weight to the other side. So then it's more like a kind of sway in and out. And also play with just gently dragging the foot out of the ground as well. So you can do this with a lot of flexibility in the foot, or you could do it with like quite a kind of a release foot, and then it's just kind of just being dragged in place. And you could obviously play with toe contact. You could play with heel contact. You could play with ball of the foot. You could play with inside edge of the foot and then shifting through. Just kind of play with it. Sometimes, again, it's like just building a little bit of resilience in the. Ideally, obviously, depending on the movement, I just want the foot to be kind of collecting the hip. And just play with also you're working both sides of the body, so that the leg that's in the ground is really doing a lot of the work in terms of balance, and then you kind of shift across. Right. Just keep it out. Just play a little bit with the hands. So you don't have to do this lightly, but so you don't have to do this all the way. Just play with like your contact down, coming back up. Still kind of keeping with those directions, so not yet really going to rotation one. Just kind of coming down. Just to, you could do it with like one hand down. The base direction obviously is like straight down. So if you think about the prime movement would be like just down, and then coming up. And then if you add into that the kind of front and back motion, got the kind of hinging movement, and then if you add into like a more of a side to side pattern, then you've got much more kind of complex patterns going on. And again, you don't need particularly much rotational movement in this case to kind of explore lots of different patterns. So and then just go into like a light contact with the hand. If you're comfortable with it, you could go into a little bit more weight in the hand. If you can touch the ground with it, you go into like light squats. And just playing those three main directions. Like up, down, front, back, side. And then you're going to go into lots. There'll be like lunge patterns, squats, kind of pattern that's there. And again, the prime directions. Just catch this one because it's important for this one. Particularly if I go like in a pattern, I go like front first. Well, the body's really going to go out of balance. So the down direction is always going to be primary. So establish the up and down. Go down and then go out, and then also coming back. If you lose the down direction, you probably lose balance in terms of doing it. So find the down, keep the down kind of pattern, and then also down as you come up as well. So it's just noticing that the down direction is always going to be primary. That's the setup for any kind of a front and back motion. And again, if the front and back's in order, then the lateral line can also be explored in a sense. So that would be the kind of more natural kind of use of the ground first. Yeah. So, and you could also use got this bench here, so I could use something a little bit higher as well. So it doesn't have to be the ground to work with. You could use a chair or something like that, just as a prop. Right. We'll just go to what just ties in a little bit the hands and the feet. So if you go like feet together, this is one that comes from foundation training. So really, it's basically just a get up and get down. So it would be like if I raise the foot out, I'm just going to just gently wiggle the foot and the hand, the toes and the fingers. And then when I'm going to just kind of shoot them out, and the first one, just notice the first you might notice the foot starts to peel out of the ground. You might notice the foot peels out of the inside, and then I go into this hand pattern. When you feel it, don't go any further into the move. Seal that connection down so that you connect to the inner thigh, and then just reach out a little bit further, and then just blow this up. You want to feel very comfortable in the leg, and you want to notice any kind of movement that's pulling me away from the ground. Not that that's wrong, but in terms of this motion, just feel that you can seal it down, and then maybe go a little bit further into it. If you wanted to step into a kind of single leg balance, you could go into this kind of pattern. But again, quite challenging in terms of structure to do, and of course the demand on the legs kind of support the body. So the pattern we'll work to is gonna just kind of do a setup, wiggle the foot and hand, and then feel that they move together. Keep that seal of the foot down, and then start to reach the foot back. Take it as far back as you can, like in the toe, and then just again like dipping the toe, reaching the hand out, and then bring it back. As you come to that pattern, if you want to kind of take a rest, what I do is just work the leg a little bit, a few times, reach out. Again, the down direction is primary, so the down's primary here, and then as I go, reach out, and then that pattern here, loading into the leg. You can move back. Do that a few times, just kind of get comfortable with it. And it's just going into a bit of a weight shift. And the hand in their way is just again reaching forward and out. So mostly a kind of hinge motion. And then it's going into we're going to more of a lunge pattern next. And then just noticing instability in the body as you do it. And you want the leg going a little bit as far back as you can, comfortably, and kind of touch the ground with the toe. And you can get the ball of the foot down. And again, you're doing this. Just watch this one, because all the foundation training is not really through a contractive work, although it's part of it, obviously. But the main thing you're working in a sense is like the extension of the structure. So what I'm not looking to do is like reach the ground with contention, like that, making the body small. So it's really like making the body long, big. Yeah, and then the kind of full stretch out this way, and then I'm going to use that line to pull the body back up. So really work in the sense the ground's primary, and then the extension to the body. So really like down and out. In this case, the out is like up and back this way. And then once you've got that feeling, just play with just gently touching the knee to the ground, tap it, come back up, and then bring the body up. And again, use a kind of normal posture as you come back. So it's a normal kind of engaged posture, because I'm about to go again. Reach out, come down, and do it slow enough that you can feel, again, the disengagement of the foot from the ground. In this case, will be something like, again, that the foot wants to peel out to the ground and he wants to pull away. Just notice it. So kind of there's a natural movement here of the leg, but it's going to be based in, again, a strong ground contact and a strong inner thigh, and then the knee's comfortable to be a little bit more flexible in terms of balance work. It's like up and away, and then just take it as far as you like, really. But the main thing, once you get to that full position, again, it's not a contractive use of the body, so it's not like a kind of somewhere in that kind of position. It's much more going to be in this kind of position, again, lengthen through the spine. You could add in another hand to it if you want. You could also do something like this, maybe stretch open or open up. Back. And then just as you do it, take it as far as you can kind of comfortable with. Just do a few more. Do it with a kind of full breath. It'd be like a full breath in, and then breath out. And as much as kind of tensioning, lengthening as you bring into it, bring out of the motion as well, and then let it kind of settle and reset. Kind of stick to the same leg, do a few, and then kind of just do a few on the other side as well. And you've got lots of issues going on, particularly that kind of up and down motion. The front and back obviously very live in this one, and the balance, and the side to side, the lateral line in this case is used again to find one side of the body and use the weight of the body to kind of align through that leg, and then you're obviously balancing up the structure and then using it to come back again. So again, it's just a kind of very simple patterning. It doesn't require much. You could take this into a rotation pattern, you could add a bit of a spiral to it, and there is a natural spiral to this pattern, but it's not kind of evident really in terms of patterning. It could be done very simple, like a front and back pattern, up and down, front and back, side to side. So great. And then we just do the same on the other side. So you might feel a little bit more comfortable on that leg, and then again, I would just work through that patterning. So like a little bit of a wiggle, get the foot and the hand together. Think about actually kind of driving the leg back, the underside of the arm. Here, stable in that foot. You might feel it just a little bit more stable because you've done a lot of it just now. So reach out, find the extension, and then just start to kind of get back with it. And notice the point where the leg starts to come out to the ground. Don't take the movement so far that it's going to start to peel the leg out of the ground. So do that strong. And you might have a different ability in this side as well. So don't try and force the body to do the same as the other side, because it might be different. It might also be bigger range than the other. You might be able to go a little bit further. Totally normal to have a asymmetrical movement pattern. It's just the body is that way. So just notice it if it happens, if it comes up. Okay. So a wiggle, dip the toe back, good. And then once you kind of feel comfortable, just start to put a bit more weight down, be like just releasing a bit through the knee and then drawing back up. Think again, the down direction is primary and also the up direction is primary. So just with this one, if you're going a bit further into it, feel that there's a very strong movement up with this motion. So it's not forward so much as up. So it's up and forward. So again, the fundamental direction is always going to be the down and up. And you're using that motion, you're using that direction, in this case, the down feeling here to raise the body up. It's like, would be like being in a lift shaft. So like the body comes up and it goes forward as a kind of consequence of it. So again, it's just going back all the time to that kind of up and down direction. Tends to be where most of the issues come from in terms of balance work. Because if that direction's not strongly kind of established in terms of like a hierarchy of movement, then it will be kind of where the balance is out or where the body's a bit not clear of where the ground is. So great. Lovely. Very nice. And then just want to kind of work the leg a little bit more, it would be like a single leg balance. Just take this kind of wisely. Don't do anything that's going to really stress the body. And if you want to, you could also use a jug like here. So just to kind of play with it, and then just play with it again. If I go back to that box shape, and then I'm just going to add in the rotation work. So it's just the hip, that pivot point, and then just the ability to kind of roll within it. So just do it wisely, do it carefully. Don't put so much stress on the body. And then if you notice like the balance is really an issue, I mean, just some days I feel like a bit out of balance or a bit tight or something. So sometimes I'll use a wall or a jog to do it. Give yourself another bit of contact, and then just play with the hip. And it's just the ability of the hip to rotate. Check the knee a little bit. It might mean watching the knee a little bit for some time. Just check whether the knee, again, what I would automatically go to if I'm not looking at the knee is the foot, and notice whether the foot's peeling out of the ground. If that's the case, it probably means that the knee's also kind of a little bit wobbly, a little bit pulling out structure. So if I seal the foot to the ground, notice that. But again, it might just be watching the knee, watching what happens in the knee as I kind of add in rotational movements. And there's always going to be play within the knee, but I want to be very careful about, again, passing a kind of rotational force into the knee. So again, if balance is an issue, again, use a Joe. You could use it like John's using the Joe on the top of the body. It's also a really nice one because I can just rely on the fact that the arms are comfortably in position, and then I can just focus on the hip. Feel yourself. You're basically like a triangulated structure now. So you're on one leg, you've got one hip guiding the shoulders. So just feel that the hip kind of just wedges that triangle. So you've got like that connection here, which goes, and you've got this connection here, which goes. And if those 3 points are working together, body should be reasonably reasonably comfortable. But again, the main thing you're working is obviously the hip. So the movement of the hip. And if you can make that movement, if you can go from like a rotational pattern or just a kind of releasing pattern to something that's a bit like 4-dimensional, and it might mean coming a little bit less pressure in the body, and then see if you can make the hip really go like really 4-dimensional in terms of this kind of pattern. And obviously you're bringing in all the other directions anyway, but just notice again, it's the ability of the hip to do that. And then once you've got it in the working leg, really start to play with the free leg as well. So the free leg is also the ability of the hip to kind of rock and roll. So this kind of feeling. And again, if you need to use a 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨𝗦 to do it, but again, notice what I want to do is entrain a movement of the hip to the shoulder. So then what I would look at is the free side of the body. So in this case, my right hip and right shoulder, and just notice if I can basically play within the structure. And then you've got the solid structure of the body, and then maybe it can become a little bit freer, a little bit more flexible. And then maybe again, the kind of lengthening movements start to maybe go towards more like wave pattern, more wave-y, spirally kind of patterns. Again, it would just come as a natural consequence of the body being reasonably stable, reasonably balanced, and then the pattern of that kind of motion of the hip will start to kind of transfer up and down the body. So you notice the transfer in the ankles, the toes. Maybe you can get it to as far as the hands and the head. Again, it's just the body's ability to allow the movement to pass up and down it. So good. And just notice how difficult it is to stay in balance as you do these kind of things. And then again, the balance, that balance kind of wobbly kind of feeling reflex of the balance is the thing you need to kind of look at, because that's your body's trying to stabilize or find the ground. And it's just whether I can convert it back into a pattern which will eventually go to the ground, or will go to the ground anyway. It's just whether I miss the ground or not. So yeah. And then what I do is just come back to kind of a neutral stance. Keep one leg on it, and then we'll just go a little bit into the shoulders as well. So release into the shoulders, and just start to play with, again, work on one leg, and if it gets a bit uncomfortable, go to the other. But just start to play with, again, slight movement of the hip, and then start to kind of sway with the arms a little bit, and then just play with, again, this kind of motion. I'm just going to play with a few patterns of the body. It can be like up and down, it can be like side to side, and feel that the hip's able to kind of create the motion as well. So the key one would be like a kind of waving, rolling pattern, and I'm really just focusing on the shoulders. So there's movement obviously you could do in the elbows and the wrist. Just let that happen, but the main joint just start to focus on would be the shoulder. And actually, it's not so much the shoulder; it's actually just more the thoracic spine here. So the ability of the spine to do this and this, and then the shoulder's going to kind of follow. If you're working with the breath broadly in a kind of nice, expansive way, then you might get a little bit more kind of feeling of the shoulder gliding around the back, gliding around the front of the body. So again, it's just exploring a little bit. That's one issue that is coming up recently, which is this kind of the ability of the shoulders to kind of stay broad and wide. So what I would do is just play a little bit with the arms. Again, you could do this with a 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨𝗦 would be a nice one to do with a 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨𝗦, and just play with the external rotation of the shoulder. And again, it's mostly working in the sense of the chest, thoracic spine, the rib cage. You start to kind of open movements. And again, try and notice. Obviously, you could isolate the body out totally and just roll the shoulders out. Again, useful to do, very useful to do. But see if you can get something. And if I go a little bit more to kind of two sides of the body, play with the hips' ability to just pass the movement into the body, pass the movement into the body, pass the movement into the body, and again, the kind of in and out. So the easiest connection, in a sense, will be same side. Hip opens and closes, shoulder opens and closes. And then the kind of tricky one, what I would kind of work towards, will be like cross the body. Hip opens and closes, and shoulder opens and closes. Once you got it, you can really just play with it. So you could have the hands in any position, but make the movement first kind of primarily about the hip work, and then let the shoulder kind of roll with it. The hands are relatively soft, then they'll just kind of follow with it anyway. If the hands are a bit cold, you can work with a bit of fist work and just pump a little bit of feeling into the hands. So I'm going to go to this. But again, notice that the tendency is for the arms to do it, and particularly if I go to like making fists, then hand starts to do it. And if the hand's doing it, it's pulling me out, generally speaking. So I feel that you move, again, motivated from the core of the body, motivated from the big joint near the core, which is the hip work, and then let it pass through the body. You also do extension hand work. You could do grippy hand work, just play within the kind of movements. You can also make gestures, whatever you want to do. Be careful if you're around with people. Don't make any offensive gestures, particularly aimed at somebody. Unless you want to. Hello. Don't do that. Nice. Perfect. And then lastly, just go into more kind of work. So I'm going to go into like hand meet position. Not too strict because it could be open and kind of more like a kind of sword hand meet, narrow, goes more like a kind of Joe work, any kind of work. Just play with that kind of line work, and then just play with kind of rolling the hips through. Keep that shoulder work going, and keep the feeling that the hip kind of drives the motion. Again, you're working the same kind of pattern, just less stress on the body. For now, obviously solo work, but feel that there's a very similar pattern going on. So the shift of the weight through, the flexibility in the hip, and then the ability to just roll them through. And yeah, what I would play with also like reversing the movement and coming back. Again, I'm just working on the connection from the hip to the shoulder, and obviously the spine in between, and whether I can kind of wave that. If also in terms of, I mean, I work always with progressions. If I was to start a class with this, I would go to the kind of box shape pattern. So I go like this, and move up. This, and kind of move up. So I would go to something a bit simpler because we've done all that kind of lead up. I think that you can again work with those kind of patterns, and then once you're going with it, just play with. But feel free to kind of explore different patterns. You're just basically exploring it in hand now, so it's just the ability of the hips to find the stance. One of the main benefits of hand is the ability to kind of turn on the spot, to be able to switch directions freely, to be able to move pretty much broadly in any direction, more or less in balance. So just kind of explore as an idea. If you think about Zengo patterns, or think about capital kind of patterns, or you just think in terms of Tenkan work, Taiten work, basically rotational movements of the body. And it's the main movement we're making most of the time predominantly. So good. And then the main one to it is again, it's we go to it all the time. We go like in and out of it in terms of like I go like operating system. I either push myself out of the ground or I fall towards the ground. So the one that's effective in this case, particularly for martial arts, if you're doing dance, actually that coming out the ground, the pattern's usually kind of useful. Even if that's the case, and you're actually leaving ground, it's still based on a feeling down, and then the ability of the body to kind of use the ground wisely, and you're just temporarily leaving the ground. So a very good dancer. Let's go look at a ballerina that does that kind of work. That's kind of springing out of the ground. They're still working the ground force. If they do it well, they're doing it well. So what I want you to look at in this one is in the sense of martial arts. I generally want 2 points of contact in the ground. One's enough, but two's better. Really play with the feeling of the weight of the body sinking down. So it would just be in a sense of like extending feeling down. Imagine you've got like a heavy weight of the body just dropping between the base of the feet, and then the foot's job is just to catch the weight of the body, and then the hips going to allow the rotation. Yeah, it might be just releasing the structure of the upper body a little bit, and it might be that the tension in the hands is actually working against me. So if you think about kind of fear patterns, they pull you out of the ground, and then maybe they're motivated to kind of move you. To do it sort of in terms of the kind of pattern that I want to train the body would be something that's very, very firmly grounded. It's going to be it's on a feeling level more than anything. Feeling the body thinking through the ground, and deeply into it. So again, just goes back to that primary direction being that vertical line. What looks like the vertical line. So the first slice of the structure falling into the ground. Again, if you look at a very, very good dancer doing a routine, generally there's like no resistance to the ground. They're just deeply connected to the ground, and there's like a really, in a sense, a kind of deep contact to the ground. So okay, and if I'm the one to catch is this, it's like just before you go, if the model of the body is to push out the ground, it will be in this mode, it will be just at that moment. So as you go, the body goes out, and then I'm trying to find the ground again. So look at that as an issue. It's like it's where you start the movement from, and if I go like that, I'm pulling out of the ground, and then if I try and catch the body, you can do it. You can like this. So try and feel it as you go. But again, the primary direction is going to be like down, down, down. And that's why I do a lot of hip work mobility, because that down direction can tend to go into compression and lock the hip. That tends to be the issue. And then I actually would go like spring over the hip, but I really want to go through the hip itself, through the hip joint, travel through it, and like glide through the hip joint. Again, it's why a lot of the Saito exercises are really great, because they train a pattern into the body, which is actually the body's safe, secure. It can roll through the joint system, through its own joint system. And then it's just in terms of alignment, whether the knee's happy to kind of receive the motion, whether the ankle's happy. There we go. There we go, great. And then just go to one pattern again. It's a kind of challenge of that. It's a bit like a box stepping. So it's like I have one fixed foot in the ground. I go as close to the body as I can. And I just play with closing up the hip. I'm going to go to this pattern, and then I'm going to go into really opening the hip. You could take this to an extreme, which will be also like coming up, down into it, and then coming up, down this way. So explore a little bit free, but it's just in the kind of hip work exploration. Like this, and what I want to do is whatever the pattern, I want to entrain the whole joint system to it. So the ankle's going to follow the motion. The ankle's going to follow the motion. I feel that you again, this kind of springy structure, elastic structure of the body. And again, it's just as an exploration. I'm going to keep the foot exactly as it is. I'm going to track the knee to it. I'm going to just play with opening, closing the hip, close the hip, and then open it up as you can. Again, depending on, I'm going to do some gel work or bottom work, depending on how far I'm going to kind of take it. But again, just in terms of exploration, you could take it as far as comfortable. And again, you could go into like a little bit of a deeper squat maybe into it. And yeah, it's just the ability of the legs to open, for the knees to receive that direction, for the ankles to be happy. That's pretty much what you're doing. You're just doing it in more of a hand-me position, more basically on the line. Yeah, notice both hips. They're doing different work at different points, and then it's just whether you can kind of get the interaction between them. And again, also looking at the shoulders, what are they doing? Very good. So. And then just to look at one, the body tends to go with the direction of the body, so the leg. So just check this, which would be like the body going like here, and the body going like here. So it starts to get kind of distracted. So really give yourself a point of focus, and then play with like this, and kind of keeping this kind of feel. It doesn't mean that the head's there, but I'm going to have a point of focus here. And as I go back, the key one's also this feeling. So I'm going to give the body very clear direction. Again, that if I'm not focused on anything, the body will the head will start to follow the pattern. Or if the hands are doing something, the body or the head starts to look at what the hands are doing. So just give yourself a kind of a point of focus. Again, something very obvious forward, passing through with a carbon, and I'm just going to use it. Kind of go in, and go out. And if I think about kind of archery movements, I would naturally go to these kind of patterns. I'm going to go into gel work, these kind of patterns, or walking work going to be this kind of pattern. And you're just patterning a basic working focus of the body. Give the body clear direction. Let yourself explore the joint system around that focal point, and then the ability to mobilize the structure around clear focal point is where you're going to go into obviously interaction, any kind of interaction that you would do throughout the day. Nice.
Nice, good. Yeah, great. That's a nice one. Yeah, good. And it's just whether you can knit the body together, and you can knit the body same side, right to right leg, right hand, or you could knit the body crosswise. And again, it's just whatever the focus goes to. It's happening anyway. So I would go to the complex pattern, which will be like across the body, like what's happening across the joint system. I mean, if you're looking at spirals, which Aikido mainly focus on, that's where the spiral line is going to really be functional. Again, it's just the ability to kind of engage what needs to be engaged, release what needs to be released, and then just be more in balance than out of balance. So great. Lovely. Very nice. Good. Nice. Perfect. Great. Good. All right. Grab a Joe when you're ready.
Yeah, so just going to that point, like having a very clear focus forward, and just in this case, we're obviously working more outward, go to the ski work, but just keep all that kind of four dimensionality of the movement this way. But obviously, you've got a very clear track of the body. Again, give yourself time to kind of go in, focus forward, and then move back. See both parts of the movement really essential. So it's loading the weight to one side, pressing in evenly spreading, and do that. Just give yourself time in both positions. Time in the ski engage position, spread and find the middle of the posture, feel the body kind of expand against the ground, and then use that expansive direction down to feel the body backwards. So see it as like an active draw arcing forward, and a little bit more of a passive move backwards or a drawing backwards. Yeah, so if you think you're always training connection with whatever you do, then you're either training disconnection into the body, or you're training deep connection into the body. So particularly notice this, like going to the ski, and then this kind of releases, and then this goes back. But you're not in this case, I would be like missing a big chunk of the training in terms of connection work. And then you're training something. It's not that it's wrong in the sense, but think about there's a very good opportunity here to train connection, which is like this and back. So what I imagine in this case, I've got the tree in front of me. Like I'm driving the spear into the tree, and then I'm drawing it out, and I'm using that kind of feeling, or that kind of knowledge of that feeling of like something being driven in, and then what would need to happen in the body to draw it back out. And again, just in terms of physical structure of the body, the sense of a draw back and loading to the hip. I'm also loading to the hip because I'm going to go straight into the next one. So I'm not loading back to neutral and then resetting. And your kamae is not a neutral position. Neutral position with the drill will be like more or less this, and even this isn't so neutral. So play with the film that this is actually not so much a neutral position, it's really a ready position this way, and then you're going to release it. And this is also a ready position to go back again or go forward into another one. So just feel the kind of function of the kamae basically in this one. Like it's just making the most of every motion. Japanese systems are very good at this. There's never an empty movement in the systems. Like every movement has a kind of function or a purpose within the form, and it's just whether I kind of connect to it or not. And it's not ever just one function, many, but just in terms of connection work, it's whether I feel that I'm connecting, working it, or working distraction into the body or confusion into the body, or whether I'm working like clarity into the body. So again, this is really important for the ski work. Again, the kind of down direction. So it's not the sense that I'm pushing out of the leg to drive the body forward. You could do that. So obviously you can do pretty much anything you like with it. But think about the logical one, if I'm to use the body efficiently, would be just like falling the structure down to the leg. there's a natural springiness in the body. I don't need to push it. I just drop into the structure of the leg. If you're doing that with a kind of free structure, the body will kind of move forward with it this way. So you don't want to do, there's two dangers of the training. You don't want to do like down and then go, which is like two moves. But you also don't want to go like push out to the body this way. So just feel the one which is like there's a natural arch, which I think about the back side of the neck and the ears and everything like draining to the foot. If I hit the foot with that feeling, the body will kind of just go naturally forward. If I can chain that to an arm swing, you've got basically a pretty good kind of connected movement, more or less. So, and it's just detail work in terms of the grip and the structure and the patterning of the shoulder, connection to the wrist and all this kind of stuff. But that's the kind of the main feeling to get is this like this boom, dropping of the weight down, and it really is like falling to the back leg. And we could do an exercise if it's not super clear. Okay, so the exercise will be like this. I'm like 50-50 weighted. I'm going to fall to the back leg and then I'm just going to move this up. The body falls forward, right? So I don't need to do a thing. Right? So if I just take this structure out, the body falls. So I'm basically just falling forward into the, you're falling into structure, obviously, but I don't, there's nothing I really need to do apart from that. Now, if the body's connecting down, it will find the closest path to the ground this way, which is going to be in the back leg. If the back leg's strong and in position, it's gonna shoot the body forward. So just play with a little bit. It's like you could also do this from the other easy one would be like this pattern, and I'm gonna like just remove the leg. The body naturally falls forward. I want to use that connection. That's the one you're doing, and I'm just converting it rather than like falling out of structure, falling in structure, and then using it to find the motion. So it maybe sometimes means like going a bit floppy, particularly with the arms, because again the arms they tend to be the ones that are actually driving us up out of the ground. Particularly if you think about this pattern, you're pulling yourself out of the ground, and I need to go to a pattern which doesn't do that. And then the shoulder free, and then I can kind of swing around a little bit with the arms. So again, it's just, again, if I'm just looking at the ability to move the body, move the structure, I can just fall forwards, obviously. And the more I can do that, the more I can convert that feeling of falling, and I convert it to the ground, and then I can just shift the structure, obviously. So, and it's a pattern that needs to be really like inbuilt. It's the normal pattern of the body, but it's the one that gets like blocked by teachings, blocked by, actually it would be like the fear of falling. We don't really like it. I don't really like falling. I'm gonna stop the body from falling. So like but I need to go like just falling down, and it's okay. And I can, the structure is there to collect me, and that's what you're doing obviously when you're doing any kind of locomotion stuff. And you're either fighting that as a principle, or you're just aligning to it. So that's the kind of a broad thing. But that's the good, great, lovely, got it, great. Okay. And then we'll just do a pattern backwards, so it's going more rotation work. Again, you could do this from a 𝗧𝗔𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨𝗦. What I would do just to make it easier is work a bit more from a narrow position. In terms of falling, again, I'm going to fall more to the front foot, but again, I'm going to let the structure kind of drop back this way. This kind of feeling. So just play with this, and like I'm strongly in structure. I meet the Joe, and then I'm just going to go like kind of soften everything out, and I just want the whole body to go backwards. I don't want any part of the body to go like forwards. So the thing I need to look at with this exercise, very simple one, is like I've got this connection through, and then I'm going to fall to the foot, and I go like, and then like this. So there's like a forward direction first. Have no forward direction, so it's like just this, and then the body's not going to fall backwards. But yeah, I'm gonna do it with a converted to the structure. So it's again, it's giving the structure backwards. And this is quite tricky to do actually. I do like a fall exercise. It's like a thrust exercise, obviously, when you just fall backwards. But I need to get this feeling of just like the body's going to go. Well, again, it's more in the falling feeling than anything else. But I need that feeling of falling. I need to have it really as a feeling, like the body's ability to just go. And that means the whole structure is tipping backwards. There can be no foot. There can't be a fall. Like I fall forwards and then I go back. In this sense, just be there and just let the body go.
if you were to just stand long enough in place, you would probably start to fall anyway, and the body's just kind of making micro shifts all the time. But in this case, you're just like dropping the weight backwards. Simple exercise, but not easy. That's it. And then very difficult to go. This is the kind of rub with this one, which is like I'm going to go into structure, then I'm going to move. And the body's actually restricted. So I need a structure in the arms, which is not basically strangling the rest of the body. That means that the front of the body's not stiff. So if I go like to a stiff structure in the arms, given that my pecs now engaged, this and my biceps engaged, in order to do this, I either fall forward like this or fall backwards like this, really out the structure, or I allow the structure to be soft and I then start to fall backwards this way. So just start to play now. If we go like more towards the Genengaishi kind of movement, I'm going to have a very kind of soft structure here. And this whole musculature here is as soft as I can get it, free as I can get it. And I'm going to just play with this kind of movement. And then again, I'm converting this falling back pattern now to the foot. And I'm going to find the front leg to the ground. And then I'm going to align to it. And then I'm going to use that pattern. Just slide back with it. If I'm starting to entrain the hands, the movement, the hand that would do it is the left. If anything does it, it's the left. The right needs to do nothing in this movement. Okay. And again, the 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨, I'm basically going to align the 𝗔𝗜𝗞𝗜𝗚 so that it's just falling. And then again, if I can entrain that feeling to the ground, then you can kind of shoot the 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨 back. But again, just notice the general pattern tends to be like stiff in the front, release forward and then go back, or push forward and then go back. But again, this is breaking structure. It's breaking the principle of grounding. So that it's aligning to the ground. And I just want the 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨 to like a shoot backwards. And again, the more I can get the whole body to go just back, that's more in alignment to the exercise than anything else. So the main one again is to watch the arms, basically, because they will interfere with the exercise. So. And again, just watch this. This again, it's one of the traps in the exercise, which is contracted use of the arm. So if it's again, know what's unnecessary and know what's not. The unnecessary in this case would be like this bicep, this. And if I can't really show this, but I'm like going like this with the bicep, wah, to boot, and it's like wah, like this. Notice it, just kind of switch off, buddy, and then go back with it. I don't need it to be contracting to do this movement. Particularly with, I mean, I've got a very light stick here, so I don't need to do really any much contractive work, and it's not excessive contracting, even if there is some. It's very light, but I'm much more focused on like engaging the backside of the body, the backside of the arm. And that's mostly going to be in the contraction. If there is contractive force, going to be really in the lat kind of area, in the inner thigh, this kind of feeling. So if you want to engage something, engage the core, and then let the arms be soft with it. So if you want to kind of play with that, would be like I'm going to switch on the core, and again I'm going to focus a little bit more on the inner thigh, maybe the hip flexor, and I'm going to really go into the lat muscle, and I'm going to kind of engage it, just feel the rest of the body can be soft, and then kind of whip the 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨 back with it. So contraction's useful. It just needs to be in the right place, obviously. And like bicep contractions, relatively weak in terms of movement. And again, it's just going to kind of restrict the pattern of the arms. Something like that. So, and also the same. You want to go from like where the training would go. Where I would go with it is from very kind of loose connection, like this kind of feeling, to something that's it has a bit more bite to it. So then there's a bit more feeling like a kind of meeting. And then this kind of feeling. And again, I'm going to go to like a focal point out, and I'm really going to engage the structure. It's really like a kind of sense of a kind of bouncing motion, or the movement before the bounce, which is the kind of springing of the body there. So there's much more here. The danger now, obviously, is that kind of contractive force of the structure switching on travels up to the arms. So again, it's particularly noticing the pattern, and you want the structure of the arm to be more in this position than this position. So again, it's whether I'm contracting the front side or the back side of the arms. And then again, whether the hands are kind of creating or aligning to that exercise. But again, I would just go a little bit more switched on, a little bit more focused, find a focal point, engage, jump, and then let the 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨 come back. The exercise I would do this was just have a partner try and grab my 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠𝗨. So I've got the 𝗔𝗞𝗞𝗘𝗠 out, and then they try to grab it very fast, and I just see whether I can get it back, and gives me again, it switches the body on to the kind of function and the practical function of the movement. Okay, let's just play with one pattern. I think it's a really good pattern, but it's the pattern we do in the basic form, which is like it's a two-step. It's like 1, 2.
Yeah, there's a really good reason for this, because it's working the hip work and it's working the stability of the body. So it gives you a longer lead in to the exercise. The risk, the problem with this movement is it starts to go into loading back, and I never really find the foot. So what tends to happen is the body's doing like a leaping back, and then I try and initiate the gate engagement, but I'm actually loaded to the back. Then I'm really in the wrong position to load it. So then I go like shit, and then the body's like in pieces. So play with an exercise where we go to later would be I just drop into the foot and I go shift and I just open the back hip this way, and then I'm already evenly weighted. There is really a benefit. There's a reason for doing that move, and obviously later it's going to be like someone's thrusting in. I'm going to kind of make it and ground, but I want to feel if I'm doing that I really load the weight to the leg where it needs to be. So then you go forward. You're 50-50 but engaged forward. You're not leaping back this way. And the focus of the body forward is really gonna determine that ability to do it. Something like that. That's it. And it's basically the same with this would be like start with the end in mind kind of idea. I know where I'm going with the strike. You could if you're in bounds, you go anywhere with it, but I know the pattern that I'm going to, which is going to be going into the get engaged forward. So I know that the body's going to be like engaging that pattern, being drawn forward into it this way. So once you feel it, just start to kind of unlock that movement forward. So again, it's just the matter of whether I can engage the body into that forward direction without obviously leaking forward, without leaking backwards, just being in the core of it. But then the kamae is the thing in this case. This is a kind of kamae. It's a kind of very engaged kamae, like a very kind of tightly wound movement. And then there's obviously a kind of a release in terms of like an energetic feeling. I would think about going like small and then big, like so it's a contraction in the best use of the word, like a contractile force and then a kind of expansive force. Something like this. And it's really the kind of core that's drawing in and then the core that's kind of releasing. And obviously the breath's used in that. The extensor muscles of the body are used in that. Everything switched on. Love it. And I think for me that really one of the most difficult movements we've got in the system. It's very tricky, very, very tricky movement. So great. Good. So one of the difficulties for me is this: you've got like you've got a really very clear forward direction. You need a very clear forward direction, and at the same time you're letting the periphery kind of circulate the body. So the tendency is the body follows the circular pattern because it tends to go then something like this. So like a very very obvious use of this would be like I'm like a bit leaked out. The body just takes the rotation move. That's basically allowing your periphery to lead the body, right? So it'd be like I'm going to make a movement and I've got like a hand and foot, and then they're going to arc. The body follows. What you want to get is something where the body's going to be able to cut the line, and the periphery follows around it. Well, we do this all the time. If you think about lots of the kokinage work later, very advanced kokinage, or even very simple yiminage kind of work, I give the body a very clear direction this way, and I allow the periphery to kind of circulate around it. This is the problem with I think a lot of with the exercises that I can either do it very stiff this way, or I can do it in a very circular way, but too circular, and I need to get the force again this kind of way, and allow this to kind of circulate the body this way. Yeah, it's based a lot on these. I do these exercises a lot. It's like very clear forward direction, but allow the periphery to kind of wrap around, not allow the periphery to twist and distort the structure. So play with that once you've got the connection through, and then just feel through it. But again, I give a very clear line, and I'm cutting the line in the ground, and I'm cutting the line forward. They're coming together within the strike at the end. And it's just the ability to kind of lock in that as a kind of an idea. And you're doing a triangle. I think of it more as a kind of triangulated strike than a circular strike. The effect of it is circular, but it's much more of a kind of sharp triangular kind of pattern. And that's the pattern you've got in the legs, and it's the pattern you've got in the arms. If you think about this pattern at the end, this very clear triangular pattern, rather than kind of the feeling of a circular. It's got a kind of point. There's a bite to the move, and a triangle has a point. Yeah, so it's much more this kind of feeling. And so it is circular. So obviously, you continue it. The triangle becomes circular, but I need the kind of point of the triangle. Good job. So
And it's going like simple geometry stuff, like if the square kind of geometry of the shoulder of the hip is in place, you can maybe start to add in rotational work, and then you're going much more into kind of triangulated work, finding wedging, and then if you get that, you can go into much more circularity patterns, and then you can go wherever you want with it. So, oh, good, great. And then last one, just go into a little bit of ski work, ski and getting aishi. So work both sides with it, and again working a little bit more. So if you've got the arc through underneath, it's kind of rolled back. Just kind of roll back, and then this roll through, and then just play with it, kind of work to go back. So put it a bit slowly. Got an arc, you've got this triangle, and the key thing in this is where the triangulation continues through, and then whips back more into circular pattern. So I take that kind of sharp edge, and I just smooth it out back this way. So it would be like this. There, if like this, there's a point to the strike down, and the strike follows through, and then I whip it back to the hip. And just the last few, I just play with a bit of ski, genangaishi. Do one side, you do both sides. And if I'm playing with more your Aikido feeling, just go into that. If you're playing more like flowy, wherever you want to go with it, you can do it a bit statically, obviously. But just now the point will be like just trying to release a little bit more circularity to the movement, and it's a kind of natural consequence of just releasing the follow through of the strike. So. Okay, yeah. Okay, well, just one exercise with it. It's a go more circularity, but with a point. There's like, if I think about the tip of the joke, I'm just going to whip it around, and I'm just going to track the point with it. So try and avoid something now, which will be like lang. What I want you to do is feel like I'm sweeping a floor or something. So you could do also with a kind of floor sweep. Will be like I'm going to kind of just sweep, let it come around, sweep, and let it come around, sweep, and come around. So there'll be a concept if I'm sweeping the floor. There's a contact point where the sense kind of switches it, and if that's wrong, I'm basically working out structure bad. It'd be like something like this. So if I'm like I was like drag the jaw around the ground. But again, there's a point to the triangle. The point is where the center aligns to the motion, and then the circularity is where I can just drag that down. You can do that. Yeah. Yeah. You could. This is later. I'd just go to Hassel. Just don't have time for that. Just get that feeling again. There's a point where the center, everything, the grounding comes in place. That's where your point of the movement is, and then if you can just kind of drag through it, that's where you've got this kind of circularity to it, and it's kind of where the system goes in terms of flow work. Anyway, also useful if I'm sweeping floors. I think I'm going to be sweeping a floor today. Useful to do it efficiently. Dun. There we go. There we go. Great. Lovely. Very nice. Good. Good. Okay, we will stop right there. Great. Domo arigato.
Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Oh, right. Good. Thank you very much.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.